Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the brand new week and brand new day, May 5th, 2020, of yours truly, Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only, Philly Pete, and we are live on 12 Ounce Sports. This show, as usual, is sponsored by MyBookie.ag. Live sports may feel no hold to you right now, but that is not the case with MyBookie. They've got tons of action for you to get in on the fun over at mybookie.ag. Whether it's esports or overseas baseball is your thing, they've got you covered when you use the promo code 12ounce sports. That's 12OZ sports, all one word, when making a deposit. They will match your first deposit up to $1,000. Don't feel like watching baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning? I know I don't. However, MyBookie has you covered with an online casino to scratch the itch, whether it's blackjack, some roulette, some three-card poker, whatever it may be. Go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code 12ounce sports. Once again, 12OZ sports, all one word, today for free money when making your first deposit. Like I mentioned on the show last week, we have the Bundesliga, German Soccer League, coming back, I believe, in a couple of days on May 9th. We have that coming back in action. You have Korean baseball that was on ESPN the other night. A lot of people across Twitter have been making action on the Korean baseball leagues, which is great. Some sports are getting back into the world of viewing nature for all of us. So that is very, very nice to see. And again, what better way to have May start off than the way it should be, with some sports. So that's what we like to see. Also, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summer, you have to check out 12 Ounce Sports' new line of clothing. We've got everything from shirts to sweaters to beach towels and phone cases. Find the store online today at 12OZSportsRadio.com under the Our Store tab. There, you'll find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, and sizes that suit your style, like Mr. Ric Flair himself. That's 12OZSportsRadio.com under the Our Store tab. I was on the store website over the weekend, and there was some incredible attire to buy: shirts, sweaters, sweatshirts. Even the mugs are awesome. You go by colors. I know my wife is going to order something from the 12 Ounce Sports store to represent. And just a lot of it out there. So I highly recommend everyone checking it out. And I should be getting my order pretty darn soon. So definitely worth checking up on and checking out. So definitely check out the store when you have a moment. So, and of course, Seat Giant, as well as always. Once sports are back in action with fans, hopefully it's sooner than later. But, if that's the case, then once sports do have fans back, please make sure to use Seat Giant. That's where you will get the first seat of the first row in any house that you go to. I highly recommend Seat Giant. They will hook you up. And last but not least, Zingo TV, of course. When signing up for a Zingo TV account, please make sure to use the promo code 12ounce. That's 12OZ. Once again, all one word. And each and every one of you out there can be streaming our live shows that we can entertain you with during this pandemic. None other than, of course, yours truly, Pete's Power Plays, along with the many other phenomenal shows that we have to give to you on the 12 Ounce Sports Network. So, once again, 12 Ounce Sports, thank you again. And here we are, rocking and rolling on this Cinco de Mayo edition of Pete's Power Plays. I hope everyone has a very nice weekend. I hope they had a very nice weekend. Weather was great out in the Northeast. I was out back having some bourbon and some cigars. Hell of a weekend. I finally saw my parents after 2 months, so that was very nice to see. And things are starting to open up a little bit in the tri-state area, let alone in South Jersey and Philly. So all recreational parks and golf courses opened up on Saturday, which was nice. I was out there, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. 70-degree weather. You can't complain here in the Northeast. So, but long and behold, let's get into it. I have a lot to talk about this week. So today we are going to start out with basically the NHL updates of what we have for you right now. I have a bunch of information to lay out for you guys, including current NHL like odds for the Stanley Cup. Also, I want to talk about the latest Last Dance episodes. For the rest of the week coming up tomorrow, I will bring in the one, the only, Lou himself at the Real Captain Lou. I want to bring him to talk about AEW and WWE and the upcoming pay-per-view Money in the Bank, which will be on Sunday live on the WWE Network, and some updates in the wrestling world. Thursday, I want to talk about the latest Philadelphia sports news. I'm even going to probably have a little bit today to discuss about that as well, and the Westworld season finale. So Thursday, I will have Gina come on as well to talk about that for the second segment of the show, Pete's Power Play. So, but first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my current clients that are still on board with me, and those that are not leaving whatsoever. They've gotten refunded, but most of you all out there have reached out to me. I gave you guys options, and you all just wanted to just let it ride out until the season resumes. So I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your appreciation, obviously, and I appreciate the trust that you all have in me. And we will get this season back in action, and we are going to cash out like we always do. So I cannot wait until hockey gets back on board, let alone every sport back, obviously with no fans. But hey, I will take sports with no fans any day of the week. So, but since we're on the topic of NHL, let's discuss this real quick. NHL could basically find a home in the Metro Vancouver if league decides to resume the 2019-2020 season, obviously. So we're going to look ahead into Canada, where most teams are going to be playing their hockey. It's what I'm seeing now. The only issue about this is that they haven't lifted the boarding control yet between Canada and the United States. So that could be an issue down the line. However, this is why we need a couple sites in the U.S. and obviously a site in Canada and at least 2 or 3 sites in the States for the obvious reasons here, just in case if the ban does not lift for the boarding of going from Canada to the U.S. and U.S. going to Canada. So time will tell for that. However, it just seems to me that Metro Vancouver is going to be a good area to resume hockey play. Basically, the provincial health officer, Bonnie Henry, basically says discussions are taking place with counterparts at the WHO around ways that professional sports can be played, obviously, towards this crisis of the COVID-19. However, they did not rule out having Vancouver host NHL games. So I believe I mentioned this last week or even 2 weeks ago on my show that Vancouver was a potential landing spot to host NHL games along with Edmonton. So those two are definitely what the main choices possibly could be when it comes to having a host city in Canada provide games in the NHL when it resumes. So a strategy as well is having, like I just mentioned, multiple NHL teams based in the same city in order to limit the travel. So you could easily see all of the Canadian teams playing in Vancouver so that they don't have to travel all over the place. But once again, a key challenge on the NHL is grappling how to ensure athletes stay healthy and they can move from a hotel to arenas to play these games. So the league is also trying to figure out how to keep social circles close enough while including trainers, broadcasters, security, catering, operations teams for the arena. So once again, this is another reason why there's not going to be any fans for the rest of this season for sure. And you basically want to keep it as small as possible when it comes to that. You have your trainers, you have the broadcasters, you have camera crew, security, operations teams. I mean, there's not going to be anyone selling stuff in there at all. There's going to be no concession stands open. They shouldn't have that whatsoever. But again, time will tell. And the NHL obviously postponed the season on March 12th, as well as the other sports. So next week at this time will be exactly 2 months since we've been in quarantine, and there had been no sports. And it's kind of funny to think, but not really when you think about it, because if it wasn't for Rudy Gobert, sports would be going on right now. And you don't have to believe that from me, but I just think that was the case, and that was the main issue. If Rudy Gobert wasn't joking around with this virus, let alone coughing on microphones and acting so nonchalant and clowning around, I should say, of the fact of this virus going on. You know, he got bit in the ass, the couple days after, and he gave it to Donovan Mitchell, which we know, and they both had the coronavirus and they were both sick. And that's basically what shut down sports for who knows the timetable. Like I said, it's to me, I believe we're going to get sports back in 2 months. I think July 4th weekend, like I mentioned last week, is going to be the timetable, and I think the estimated time as to when sports will start up again. I know about a month ago I mentioned probably middle to end of June, but the more I think about it, the more that I think baseball will start up July 1st, and I believe just all the major sports will start up July 4th weekend. When everything's said and done. So another 2 months, and we should be seeing sports without fans. However, Rudy Gobert just, to me, ruined this. And if it wasn't for him, we would have had a March Madness tournament without fans. I know it wouldn't have been that exciting, but hell, to have a college basketball tournament still during a pandemic, I think it's what everybody needed. So sports obviously would have went on. And to my knowledge, without fans, they would have continued everything. But just one person has to be the buzzkill of this current situation, and that's where we stand right now with no sports. So, and I even believe that most of the NBA GMs and coaches even backtrack to the fact that, hey, listen, if Gobert didn't joke around about this, there'd be no doubt be a season right now, continuing on right now without fans, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine with me. And whatever it takes to get sports back on the air is what everybody needs, including myself. And for this clown to do this, I know I'm rambling on about Rudy Gobert, but it's the truth. And you heard it on Sports Talk. You heard it on the news, sports news everywhere, ESPN, even mentioning the fact that Rudy Gobert ruined what could have been there would have been sports without fans, but he basically took it to another level, and that's why we don't have sports, because of him. And we'll see what his action is once the teams do get back to facilities, which obviously should be opening up very, very soon. So enough of that talk. Time will tell. And like I said, NHL, to me, it just seems that all NHL teams had between 11 and 14 regular season games remaining when play was halted. So obviously we were, again, towards the end of the season. So to me, the format to be used when and if action resumes remains uncertain. I mentioned this before. I think, with 10 to 15 games left in the season, I just think you scratch it. You scratch the rest of the season, and you just start the playoffs. It's very unfortunate because those that are fighting for a playoff spot wouldn't get a chance. But, these are crucial. These are crucial last 2 weeks of the NHL season to me and to everybody, because it does affect the wild cards. And it's to the fact that now they're not sure what they're going to do makes me think that they're just going to toss the regular season out and just start the playoffs, which makes sense. But I would be really shocked if they do finish the regular season out and start the playoffs. Players need at least a month, to recoup. They need at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get acclimated back into skating and getting back on the ice and practicing around. So, there could be goals galore. I mean, over-unders might be set at 6.5. Who knows? Some high-octane offenses could even see 7. And there I am talking about hockey betting because I am that dedicated and ready for sports betting to be back up, especially hockey. So, we'll see. I think there's going to be a lot of goals when the NHL season resumes because the players are still rusty. What else can I say? However, all NHL players are still following quarantine. Last time I checked, they were still in quarantine until May 15th. So, it's just a matter of time until everything goes through. So, basically, to wrap up this segment about the NHL, it's the possible sites, like I mentioned, Rogers Arena in Edmonton. You have UBC's Thunderbird Arena. You have the Pacific Coliseum. You also have Langley Event Center and Abbotsford Center. So one of those 5 that I mentioned will host hockey for a potential site to play hockey, and they have to. They have to have a Canadian host in order to get the season back in action. And of course, the other 4 or 5 will be in the States. So when everything's said and done here, the league obviously would need time to get players back into game shape, like I just mentioned, under current restrictions. So athletes traveling to Canada from outside the country would have to isolate for 14 days. So if I lived in Italy and had to go back into Canada to where I play hockey for, let's say, the Edmonton Oilers, you know, I have to quarantine myself for another 2 weeks. So therefore, again, it's just very, very, it's very complicated, and I just think that playing in July is the best route to go, but I think he goes straight into the playoffs, and I'll leave it like that. NHL futures as we currently stand: the Vegas Golden Knights 5-1 right now. Boston Bruins 6-1 right now. Tampa 7-1 right now. St. Louis 9-1 right now. Colorado 9-1 as well. Clients of mine had Colorado at 12-1 when those lines first came out. Washington Capitals 8-1. Clients had 10-1 of mine. The Philadelphia Flyers is at 12-1. I got it as a personal play back at 25-1. So, all these plays here are still in doubt. Dallas, clients had 18-1. Dallas now is 20-1. Okay, little bit of a step back, but that's okay. And then Carolina Hurricanes, unfortunately, clients had them at 33-1. They're now at basically 50-1 at this point. So again, that's another major setback with Carolina. But again, that was a wild card dark horse selection that the clients loved that I gave out. So we'll see. These odds change by the week, and again, we'll see when the time comes, because at this point, anything can happen in the NHL, especially those in the playoffs. But again, I will have more to talk about this week in the NHL, and I'll basically leave it like that. Now, next up, episodes 5 and 6 of The Last Dance. I know I have about 15 minutes left with you guys, but this is going to be the second half segment of Pete's Power Plays here. Also, ladies and gentlemen out there, welcome to the fresh Tuesday, May 5th episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only Philly Pete, and we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody out there. Please bust out some Coronas tonight and enjoy the day. So, get into The Last Dance episodes 5 and 6. We get introduced to Kobe Bryant on Michael Jordan. Opens up with Jordan's relationship with Kobe Bryant after the two shared the court during the 1998 All-Star Game. Jordan did notice Bryant was relishing the opportunity to go one-on-one against others and was determined to put a stop to it in front of a sold-out MSG crowd. Listen, if it was anybody that could stop Jordan in his tracks, let alone defensively, and go shot for shot with him, it's Mr. Kobe Bryant. Let's be completely honest here. Kobe just had that game they both had it. They both had it. Kobe just knew something about Jordan, would always get into Jordan's head because no one else would. Kobe would be that guy that did it. He got into Jordan's head because no one else would step up and be a man. Kobe did it all, and no one ever evaluates that in Kobe's life, because he was the one that got Jordan all, antsy and all, and that's why they were both two of the best in my time growing up and watching, and so we know Jordan gave Bryant the business end of schooling on his way to a third All-Star MVP award, but not before Bryant took notes, because that's how he is. Kobe just wanted to take notes. He thought MJ was a teacher. He basically wanted to step up his game to be better than Michael Jordan. And, he asked questions that Jordan was completely willing to answer, and Bryant always said this. He grew up watching Michael Jordan on TV, and now he got a chance to face him one-on-one, a chance to touch, basically touch, feel his strength, his speed, his quickness, and just how fun it is to just talk trash to him, and be next to him one-on-one beside him, especially being an idol growing up and watching MJ on TV. And, like Kobe said, it was a rough couple of years for him coming to the league. The time the league was just so much older than him. Kobe was the young guy coming in. Everyone was old. You had Patrick Ewing, you had Charles Barkley. He had all that Pippen, MJ, everyone that was up there, and it just wasn't as young as it is today. Nobody was thinking much of him. Just a kid who just shot a bunch of air balls. And we know Kobe, when he first came into the league, wasn't that effective, and then he just built his game each season to where he was. And that's why it made him so much just more of a brilliant player than he was when he first got into the system. And at that point, MJ helped out Kobe and provided a lot of guidance for him. And that's exactly why the success of Kobe still lives on to today. And that's how it's always been. Not only did Kobe have the ultimate respect for MJ, but he also attributed a lot of his success to Jordan's willingness to teach him the ropes, and that's what he did. Like I said, Jordan's the teacher, Kobe's the student. Kobe took plenty of notes for him from MJ, and basically what you get from him is from him. And you don't get 5 championships without Jordan, because he got it Kobe so much and gave him so much great advice. As simple as that. Now, obviously, Jordan's influence on Kobe was evident whenever the Lakers legend stood up, and in The Last Dance, we get it right from the horse's mouth. And simple as that. Their legacy will always live on. Kobe's always, rest in peace, will always live on. I'll always remember the 2001 NBA Finals between my Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson, stepping over Tyronn Lue, that Game 1 win, which, hey, it shocked the world. It did shock the world. And a lot of you, I know, that are listening out there that are in their 30s, like myself, that followed that NBA Finals, know exactly what I'm talking about. AI, the MVP of that season, basically hitting the typical AI fadeaway shot, stepping over Tyronn Lue and getting that Game 1 win in LA. To that point, though, I thought to myself, this is going to be the last game that the Sixers win. They're not going to win anymore. Because you have a pissed off Shaq and Kobe that are going to get after that. And guess what happens? The Lakers rip off 4 in a row and win in Game 5 in Philly, and that's just how it was. That's how it was. So now you go into the brand, Michael Jordan brand, with the clothing line started coming out. Young Jordan didn't choose Nike. We know that. He did not choose Nike from the onset as his choice of footwear. Instead, he wanted to wear Adidas, which was a shock, which was a huge shock going into the NBA world. Nike thought it was a guarantee. They thought it was a guarantee that he was going to sign there. But when he chose Adidas, it was a brand that he had grown fond of during his 3 years in college. So basically, that's what happened, And at the time, Converse was the leading brand in the NBA. We all know that. The weapon, quote-unquote, signature line was sported by some of the greats, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Nike was merely a track shoe brand, basically, and that's why it kind of fleeced away MJ at the time, and the agent David Falk, he insisted Jordan listen to their pitch once he lined up a meeting, and Jordan wasn't keen on it. He came up and coming brand was willing to offer him $250,000 to basically net him as the face of their brand, like $250,000. At the time, even the best stars were only getting, basically $100,000 for a shoe contract. He's getting more than double that. So, Nike was hoping to sell 3 million of Jordan sneakers by the end of his 4th year in the league, but soon realized that, hey, they had a gold mine in their hands after selling $128 million by the end of his rookie season, which is unreal. So, here we go. It also spanned how we handled business later on during the basically you had the 1992 Barcelona Olympics as a sponsor that as Reebok sponsored them to see the Dream Team basically have their logo out during the gold medal ceremony, including Jordan. So that whole team was represented by Reebok, which is crazy. MJ, we know, was pissed off about it. He even admitted it during a car interview with a reporter sitting in the back seat. There was a quick exchange about that, and then as we heard on The Last Dance, it was documented. Jordan basically saying how Harvey Schiller is a what, and the reporter is asking who is that, and Jordan just getting into a spiel about it, basically saying like how we don't wear. It's a guy who said that we don't wear our uniforms, we can't accept our gold medal, and all that bladder, and reporter thinks it was still a big issue, and Jordan said, nah, they're still going to hide the Reebok logo on it, but they can't hide it like I'm going to hide it. So Jordan obviously was out for big-time revenge during that time. So here we go. Jordan would memorably go on to wear a flag over the right side of his body, completely overshadowing the Reebok logo. That's how he was. He had complete hatred for Reebok, big time. Next up, Mr. Survivor himself, Tony Kukoc. This is when we get highly involved with him, and like I said, he was definitely the wild card on that Chicago Bulls team by far. Stories about Tony's initial welcome to the league moment was a big aplenty as the Croatian international was held to 4 points in a game during the Olympics, playing against an MJ and a furious Scottie Pippen. Pippen basically was irate at Jerry Krause for salivating over Kukoc while also setting aside money for him to come over from Europe, which played a role in obviously Pippen's contract negotiations. So little hatred there between Pippen and Krause, which and it all relied on Kukoc's game. That's why Krause was a big fan of Tony's, and Pippen was determined to give Tony the works to show up Krause. So again, we will see what happens there, as we mentioned. But the dream team was what they expected to be, and many gave Kukoc credit for coming back after being completely emasculated in the first game, and during the last dance, it was noted that the Croatian made some sterner stuff than he was actually credited for. So just many Americans out there, didn't really understand the toughness of Tony Kukoc. How like the war situations were back in Croatia, like the living styles, the poverty, and basically a kid like Tony Kukoc, where he came from, and Croatia produced him, and it basically hardened him to be the man that he was. Kukoc would eventually be embraced by MJ and Scottie and became a key log on the Bulls after basically the latter took him under his wing. So that was the three-headed horse when Tony came to the Bulls. Simple as that. Jordan Rules controversy. We had the Jordan Rules, a book that was a long time by the beat writer Sam Smith. It hit the market when Jordan's fandom was at its cusp. We all know that. The book peeled back the curtain on Jordan's often competitive relationship with his teammates, offered a look beyond the role model that so many had taken after. Jordan obviously wasn't okay with a lot of the stuff that came out in the book. As I've read too, he still basically blames Horace Grant for whistleblowing a lot of things from practices. He never shut his mouth, Horace Grant. Talk about a snitch, man. This guy was the absolute heel of all heels when it came to that situation. Horace Grant just whistleblew everything on the Chicago Bulls. What he didn't contribute to that, it was Horace. Absolutely. He was just definitely that low-key piece in the Bulls that would just hear everything during practices and would have to let his name known. He wanted to expose everybody, Horace Grant. We know that. But, of course, in the last dance, he denied everything. So, again, I think Horace was a liar. We know he whistleblew. Simple as that. I mean, you have a little scale, you have a little weight here. MJ and Horace Grant. Everyone's going to believe MJ's story over Horace's any day of the week here. So, I have big time hatred for Horace Grant as well. But that's just how it is. And so ultimately, the book allowed readers to know that Jordan was more human version of a godly persona that he'd been taken over his years of success. Flawed individual who he made mistakes just like everybody else. He wasn't a god, I make mistakes. You make mistakes. People that are tuning in are making mistakes, Everybody does. No one's perfect. And you're a damn fool if you think you are. But no one in this world is perfect, and I'll lend it like that. But when he faced criticism for some things exposed in books, it humanized him and lent others scope to know who Jordan was, this ruthless competitor, and that's how Jordan was. So here we go. New York Knicks. Patrick Ewing and MJ, when they finally meet, the Knicks were basically quick to take over the Bulls. The new rival of the Detroit Pistons in late 80s. To compete basically against a younger league. Again, John Starks was just to name a few. Patrick Ewing, rest of that Knicks team, determined to knock down the Bulls during the 93 Eastern Conference Finals. After Chicago basically 7 games in the second round of the previous year in 1992. So New York was obviously out for revenge. That 90s New York teams had so many chances to win a damn NBA title, and they just could not do it. This team was loaded. That's when they finally had a great fan base back then. The team was amazing, and they just couldn't do anything with it. It's a damn shame for those New York teams. So now this is when you get into criticism about going to Atlantic City and gambling. This was a big issue with gambling. And Jordan's father got involved. Let's go to NYC and go to Atlantic City and gamble a little bit. So that's what happened. I mean, Jordan still to this day claims that he didn't do anything wrong back then, and The constant hoopla surrounding Jordan's gambling habits caused him to give the media the cold shoulder for 2 weeks before resuming his report with them as usual during the '93 NBA Finals. They ended up winning the next 4 games against the Knicks, shockingly, which those reached, and then they ended up going to the NBA Finals. Jordan ultimately gave a dark interview to Ahmad Rashad, denying his gambling was a problem. It's here to this day. I'm not really sure. I just think that it's more of a competition problem for Jordan compared to a gambling problem, as everyone is basically overestimating it. But we know how Jordan is competitive wise. Did he have a gambling problem? Okay, maybe. Didn't he have a? He didn't have a gambling problem. Maybe. Again, it goes either or. But when it comes to competition and you're gambling, I mean, of course it's gonna keep going and going. I'm competitive as well when it comes to sports. When I gamble, you're the same way. I mean, especially, that's just how it is. That is how it is. But hey, listen, an iconic line from an iconic player. I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competitive problem. So again, there you have it. And finally, to wrap up this segment here, Jordan versus Barkley, the 1993 NBA Finals with Battle of Titans. Obviously, Jordan and Sir Charles himself. Jordan was admittedly miffed Barkley by awarding the 1993 NBA MVP award, determined to walk away with the ultimate bragging rights. But, he basically was just saying, he was kind of bitter, you can have that, but I'm going to get this, pointing to the Larry O'Brien trophy. Bulls won game 1, and then, Sir Charles determined to even it out in game 2. He argued he played one of the best games of his career, 42 points in game 2, and he still went up Jordan, by that much in a loss. However, Suns won game 3. Barkley would then respond to win game 5. This was a great series. This was a great series. And then Jordan, at the end of the day, addressed his teammates like, let's close this NBA Finals in Game 6 in Phoenix. And I'm only packing one suit. I'm not going there to play 2 games, Jordan told the team. And that's what happened. Jordan and the Bulls would go on to win Game 6, win their 3rd straight NBA title before Jordan's first retirement, so-called. Barkley still had no qualms about losing to Jordan, given perhaps the most colorful quote at the end of Season 6. And I quote from Sir Charles, "Sports are like a gunfight, and we lost to the fastest gun," which was Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So, quintessential Chuck in his way, and that was a great way to wrap the episode of The Last Dance. I, to this day, love Charles Barkley. I also have his Sixers jersey. He is just a phenomenal character. Even on NBA on TNT, he loves to fool around with Shaq. He's just an all-around great human, great character, and I love everything about Sir Charles. And hey, he did what he could to defeat Chicago Bulls, but it's really, really tough to basically be on top of that Bulls team, and the Suns were just awfully close. But hey, props to Sir Charles and the Phoenix Suns back in the day for giving them the run for their money. And I will end the show on that note. I know I'm a little bit over, but I know 12 Ounce Sports will not mind as well as the rest of you out there. So once again, I hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Hope everyone enjoys a nice cocktail or two. And this is Philly Pete signing off. I will be back tomorrow, and I will have Lou at the real Captain Lou, I should say. Sorry about that. On the air tomorrow to talk about AEW and WWE and discussing about the Money in the Bank on this Sunday. So everyone have a great, great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Later.